Thanks for watching today my video on the new North American MiG Commission Su-27 flanker. This has been a project that Scott Challenger and I have been working on for the last couple of years, and I finally got the energy and the time to finish this project. So I'm going to talk a little bit today about prototype design and development and how Scott and I develop an airplane. Well, our webpage is migsrs.com, and our motto is Puto Concilium Test a Convalidandrum. Basically, think, design, test, and validate. We don't just put a plane together and put it out there. It's a very long process with a lot of testing, a lot of validating, a lot of science behind what we do. So the Su-27 is a larger airplane than MiG-29, and we are very pleased with our MiG-35B model. Just a fabulous flying airplane that a lot of development went into. The Su-27 came out in 1990 when it really first started the service in the Soviet Air Force. It became infamous in 1987 when they collided with the Norwegian Lockheed P-3 Orion over the Barents Sea. And a version people are very familiar with, the first true fighter with canards, is the Su-33, and they added those canards for additional lift, reducing takeoff distance off carriers. But we wanted to go with one of the original 27 Su-27's early models, single-seater, and that's what we set the design after. Eventually, the Su-27 became replaced by the PAC-FA, and we've got our version, what we call the MiG-FA, which is a little bit of a hybrid between the two. So we usually start with drawings we can get off the internet. Here's a nice schematic picture, and what I love about the Su-27 is the way the wing and the lurks flow into the fuselage, and you've got that nice dropping fuselage. It does have a rather large tail radar boom, which in our plane we're going to make a little bit shorter. Here's a beautiful plane. Another one in flight at a high angle of attack. So a couple things when I design an airplane. I want a single piece wing plate. I hate putting two pieces together to make one wing plate. Alignment issues, it's more pieces, so I like to go with the single wing plate. We've stuck with a 27-inch wingspan for several reasons. One is it will fit vertically on Depron and horizontally on MPF. It also, on MPF, allows us to have lurks extensions, which are part of the wing plate, and it can all be done on one piece of Depron or MPF. And the other thing, it keeps our overall plane weight, what I would call standard, for an interchangeable power setup. So we use the 2200 or 2700 kV motors. So you can use that same, you crash an airplane, you can pull that motor out of your MiG-35B and put it in the Su-27, you can put it in the MiG-FA, and you're going to get planes that have the same power to thrust ratio, but are going to fly very differently. So you don't have to have a bunch of different engine setups. We're trying to keep it very simple. And then also on our plane designs, I design my plane so it's easier to build, it's faster to build, and every time I design an airplane, I think, how can I make this build stronger? I also want to build it so it's easier to finish. On the Su-27 coming out, I've converted the fuselage to butt joints, which in the end prevents a lot of filling the gaps and adding and cutting pieces. So I'm constantly adding tabs, taking out tabs, anything to make it easier to build and get it in the air. Because if you really want a beautiful looking airplane, there's other people that design those, and then there's the ready to fly. So to me, it's a balance between a plane that you can build yourself in a relatively short time, get it in the air, and it looks fabulous at 10 to 15 feet. I still think they look good at 5 feet, but if you want that perfectly scaled airplane, this perhaps is not a design for you, but if you want a plane that flies awesome and looks great, this is definitely a plane. So we learned a lot of lessons in that MiG-35B. We take a lot of measurements. I do a lot of reading about polar moment of inertia, axis of rotation, center of lift, CG. Do a lot of calculations. We have an extensive documented spreadsheet on all of our airplanes that we've designed, every model, every change, and how that affects how the airplane flies. So we go back to our designs and we look at the numbers, and this helps us predict how we're going to draw a plane. Well, I use simple vector drawing software, which is just any drawing software, but instead of doing pixels, when you draw a line at an angle, you get a true line, or what's called a vector. So I don't use anything fancy, just what's called iDraw, and I work on an Apple. So I'll go on the internet and I'll find a set of engineering plans like this. Then I take these engineering plans and I scale them so that the wingspan is to 27 inches. And then I'll make an overhead shot, I'll make a frontal shot, and then I'll make a side shot. Then I import these into my software, do a lot of drawing, making a lot of lines here and there, and then hopefully we'll end up with an airplane that looks like this, that then when I do a picture of my plane, put it up against the overlay, that is a nice tight match. So kind of start off, I have my long lines you can see that go from the top to bottom. We have a 2-degree wedge. I do mirror imaging design, so you can see here the left wing plate. I'll make a mirror image of that, flip that, bring the two together so you've got a perfectly symmetrical wing. I do the same for the elevons and the side plates. And here I've got I add a lot of measurements, which you can see here while I'm doing my drawing, and can switch different layers to have all the overlays and get the size plane that I want and make sure it's scale. Here you can see, if you look at the leading edge of the wing, we found when I measured the wing square area, it was a little bit short on the Su-27, and we found on the MiG-35B that adding about 10% of wing square area markedly improved the performance of the plane and made it easier to fly. So I took the liberty on my Su-27 to increase the wing surface area as well, but maintaining the outline of the lurks and the wing edge. And then I do a calculation called a mean area chord, which is a way you divide up the wing square area to the root by 50%, and then we found somewhere between 18 and 20% is where you can do a predictive CG. And we've been doing pretty well with this, and we're within typically a 1/4 inch on our predicted CGs of actual CGs of how the planes like to fly. And then I'll go through the side pictures, and then I'll do my side plate drawings, and these now I'm doing in 3 separate pieces, bring them all together for one final piece. Go back continuously with my verification numbers to make sure I'm staying in line. Cockpits are a lot harder to design. I know a lot of guys are using 3D software. I basically take a lot of measurements and then just hand draw out the different bulkhead pieces that are going to fit. I do the same thing with my side plate. I put it on there and start drawing to get it within the configuration to where I think it'll fit. Then I go and do my inner pieces, and here you can see something we've added. It was Scott's recommendation, was I had added some more pieces to help forming that nose, and then Scott said, well, listen, I don't want anybody to get confused with the different pieces, so Scott had the fabulous idea of labeling all these different pieces on the plan, so when you cut them out, before you take the piece of paper and glue it off, you know exactly where it goes. So these are all hand drawn and hand designed to get to fit like I'd like them. So then I start building prototypes. I start with just paper, see how it fits, and then I go to dollar store foam, and I probably will go through 10 of these fuselage mock-ups to get the exact fit and finish that I want. Even though you predict it on paper, draw it doesn't always work out just like you like it. Here you can see I've attached it, married it to the wing plate. Then I'll start working on the canopy design. I'll draw an outline, and then I'll make a separate cutout for the canopy and do through a lot of iterations to get the right look. And the canopies I like to keep simple. I know there's some beautiful canopies out there that have a lot of folds in them. Like I said, I'm trying to go for what looks great at 10 to 15 feet. I'm not going for a perfectly scaled canopy at 5 feet because I just like the simplicity of this canopy, and I think painted black it looks great. So then I end up with my airplane all together, test fit well. Once again, I recompare the drawings, and then the next step is to figure out where the servos go. And our servos, we like to put the elevon servo close as we can to the carbon spar. That increases strength, helps reduce flexing, because the elevons can take a lot of beating, a lot of pressure, especially if you're doing a lot of high G maneuver, high alpha maneuver. And another thing I've started doing is thinking about how can I make these plans simpler. So I like to put all the small pieces together. This time I've added the motor reinforcement pieces together in one piece. So all you do is cut down the middle and you've got your 4 separate pieces. So to cut down the number of cuts as well that you have to do. And we're going to do the same thing with the elevons this time. They're paired together. So when you cut them out, you're not going to have to trim them out to have a space between them so they don't touch. And then I put the airplane together out of dollar store foam, and then I hope the airplane gods are good to me and my science all comes together. And I take the airplane out and I toss it in the air and see what happens. So here we're going to watch some glide test. I do initial hand throwing, kind of soft flights, and then I throw the airplane as hard as I can and see what happens.
And we'll do a few simple little test flights here. Now I'm going to throw it up a little bit more at an angle. Now I'm going to go for a long flight down the hill and hopefully won't hit a tree. Boom!
So now we're in the validate phase, and once I've got everything, I'm pretty happy with it. I send Scott a set of rough plans, and he starts to build the airplane. And we've got already about a 42-page document that we use Google Docs, going back and forth, and I'm tweaking the plans as he's making it with MPF, which is a little bit easier to build with than the dollar store foam, and is going to be what people are going to be using. So he and I go back and forth, and he has documented this build fabulously on Google Docs, which is, he's really, I like to call him our Wikipedian. Scott's attention to detail. He's got thousands of flights on these airplanes. He keeps records of everything, and there really is no better test pilot out there than somebody who understands how these planes should fly, what makes them fly. And he's just a fabulous asset for me as a designer to then have somebody who, with his hand on the stick, and come back and tell me what I need to do to make the plane fly better. The science that I read about doesn't always translate to what works in RC. And that's Scott's job, is to make sure that translation works. And then he has also been putting a lot of this on the RC Powers website and their threads. And if you go, it's called the NAMC S-27, I left out a U there, Su-27 Flanker Design Build and Test Thread. But if you go there, he's documenting online as well. So I hope this video helps out. We should... Oh, let me show you here. Here's a picture of the nose of the Su-27 Scott's version. Absolutely gorgeous. I got to brag. I mean, I just think it turned out so nice in MPF. And when I had it in dollar store foam, I didn't realize how nice it looked. And we're really, really happy. And if you look at the top, you can see the top piece of the fuselage, the butt joint. There's a butt joint on the bottom as well. Here's a top view of the airplane. And Scott, once the snow melts up there in Canada, he's out there in the Northwest. And if you're wondering the pictures where I flew my plane, I live down in Alabama. So we catch a hard time in Alabama, but it's a beautiful state. So hopefully we'll have our plans out here in the next month or two. We're not going to release our plans until we're perfectly happy with the fit and that we've completely tweaked the flight. So it will be coming, and it will be coming the next couple months. So please check out our blog spot at migsrs.com. Scott documents a ton of information for you. Of course, rcpowers.com, and then I always recommend RC Flight School Manuals. They talk about precision setup of an airplane, and it'll help you understand how we design our airplanes as well to make them fly. Thanks for listening, and look forward to hearing your comments if you buy our plans and build our plane.